And yet, as you sit quietly with this knowing, something deeper stirs beneath the surface. A whisper not from outside, but from within the chambers of your own being. It murmurs a strange truth, that what you call time is not delay, and what you call waiting is not distance. The manifestation has already happened. And this isn't metaphor, it is law. You do not attract what you want. You remember who you are, and who you are has never been without. Most imagine that manifestation is a process, that it requires steps, effort, a proving of worth, or a gathering of external pieces. But the truth is more daring than that, more elegant, more absolute. Manifestation is not a journey. It is a revelation, and revelation is always instant. Feel the stillness of that as it lands. The delay you experience is not in the thing. It is in the seeing. It is not the creation that takes time, but your awakening to what is already finished. The seed does not wait to become the tree. It is the tree, encoded in silence, unfolding by divine pattern. So too is every desire, already contained in the I am that dreams it. There is no distance between you and your fulfillment, except the veil of your belief, and even that veil is illusion. For as you assume the state, not wish for it, not try toward it, but enter it, it becomes real to you. And what is real to consciousness must reflect in form. This is not theory. This is law. You were taught to pray as if heaven were elsewhere, as if the Father were a far-off throne, and not the very breath within your body. But Christ tells you, before they call I will answer, and while they are yet speaking I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. Do you feel it now, the echo in your bones? The thing you've longed for has never been denied, only unrecognized. Notice what shifts in you as you hear this. That subtle softening, that curious stillness. It is not the mind learning, it is the spirit remembering. Most ask, where is it? But the deeper question is, who is asking? For if you are still waiting for the sign, you have not yet become the one who has received. And this is the great reversal, the secret hidden in plain sight. You do not manifest by striving toward. You manifest by identifying asterisk from asterisk. It is all now. It has always been now. Time is the servant of assumption. It bends to the shape of your inner conviction. When you imagine something and feel it as real, you do not bend reality toward that outcome. You collapse the illusion of sequence and align with what has always existed in the eternal now. You are not changing the world. You are choosing the version of you who already lives in it. And so the instant you assume it, truly assume it, the world begins to mirror back the one you've become. This is why you can have what seems like a breakthrough overnight, a healing that was impossible, a phone call you'd given up on, a sudden change in someone else's behavior, because it was never asterisk the asterisk. It was never asterisk the thing asterisk. It was always you. The moment your inner conversation changed, the play rewrote itself, and reality, like water, reflected the new shape you had poured into it. But what keeps you from staying in that knowing? Why, if it is instant, do you sometimes feel so far from it? Ah, that is the deeper mystery, the one that hides behind the velvet curtain of your senses. For though manifestation is instant, the self that doubts, the self that waits, must be gently laid to rest. And that death, the death of the old you, is what feels like delay. But it is not delay, it is deliverance. And as that truth settles in, as your old questions soften in the warmth of this new light, you begin to feel it, the pull not to become, but to remember, not to strive, but to rest asterisk. Which brings us to what most never realize, that the state you live from is the prayer. And your answer is not coming, it is hidden in the silence beneath your next breath. So you begin to feel it now. Not as a concept to be grasped, but as a sacred rhythm resounding through your being. The state is the prayer. The assumption is the unfolding. And nothing can remain unfulfilled once it is truly assumed. Not because you convince something outside of you, but because you cease to deny what was already within. You are not waiting for your desire. You are remembering your place in the finished picture. This is why so many struggle. Not because the law is incomplete, but because the self they bring to it is divided. They wish while still believing they are without. They affirm while still fearing lack. They imagine, but do not yield to the new identity. And so the bridge remains unwalked. But listen softly. The bridge is not built by effort. It is revealed by rest. Every fulfilled desire exists already in the infinite imagination of God, and God is your own wonderful human imagination. The versions, the paths, the outcomes, they are all complete. You do not have to create them. You only have to abide in the state where they are already true. And in that state, all things align. No resistance, no striving, just a quiet inner knowing. I am. Feel the weight of that for a moment. Not I will be, not I hope to become, but I am. Already whole, already chosen, already living in the reality, where the thing is not separate from you, but part of you. The moment you dwell there, the world begins to bend around the shape of your inner gaze. Events shift. People respond. Circumstances form with uncanny precision. And yet it feels effortless. Because it was never the world you were trying to change. It was yourself. And the self is the only place manifestation ever happens. This is what is meant by the statement, according to your faith be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. Not your effort, not your emotion, your faith which simply means your loyalty to the state you have chosen. Do you remain faithful to the version of you who has or do you return to the shadows of lack each time the outer world delays its reflection? Ah, the outer world, that delicate mirror. So many become entranced by its surface. They wait for signs, forgetting that the sign only appears after the seed has rooted. You will not see the tree bloom before the soil has swallowed the seed in silence. So too must your assumption sink into the unseen, before it can emerge in the seen. And this is where faith becomes vision. Not eyes that see, but a heart that knows. The imagination is not a tool to escape reality. It is reality. The only one that ever was. When you dwell in imagination, and feel from the wish fulfilled, you are not pretending. You are dwelling in the place where time bends, where all is now. And from that dwelling, manifestation is instant. You may not see it instantly. You may not touch it that very day. But feel this deeply. Its reality is instantaneous. The moment you believe and what you believe with conviction, you must eventually see with eyes. For what is seen is always born of what is unseen. And nothing is more unseen than the thoughts you entertain when the world goes quiet. So you begin to practice, not forcing, but surrendering, not demanding, but accepting. Each moment becomes a temple, each thought a prayer. You start to listen not to the outer world, but to the inner one, and you notice the shift. You no longer wait to feel wealthy, to feel chosen, to feel loved. You feel it now because you have become the one for whom it is natural. And the world, like a stage crew responding to your role, rearranges itself to match. It is not magic, it is law. You do not have to understand how, only dwell faithfully in the assumption of the end. From that state, all things are added, not by struggle, but by flow. And it is here, in this place beyond questioning, that you finally taste the secret most never dare to claim, that there is no power outside of you, no force holding back your desire, only consciousness, and your relationship to it. But what if the state you've chosen still feels distant? What if your imagination feels faint, like a candle flickering in wind? This prepares us for a mystery that few ever consider, the sacred role of inner conversation, and how your words to yourself become the very voice of God in your world. So the flame flickers. Yes, but it never dies. Even in the quietest moments, when the world seems loud and your mind feels uncertain, something eternal speaks within. It is not always a roar. Often it is a whisper dressed as your own thought. And yet this whisper creates worlds. For your inner conversation is the shaping hand of your reality. What you say within yourself, about yourself, and to yourself, that is the seed. That is the decree. And every decree returns fulfilled. Most do not realize they are always speaking, not aloud perhaps, but inwardly, beneath the surface of attention, a steady hum of self-definition. I am not ready. I don't know how. This is too hard. These are not passing thoughts. They are commandments. And reality obeys without question. But the moment you choose, truly choose, a new conversation, a new world begins to take form. Feel the quiet authority of that. You are not merely imagining an outcome. You are embodying the one who already lives inside it and the way you speak to yourself reveals who that self is. When your inner voice reflects the tone of the fulfilled desire, you have crossed the threshold, no longer hoping, no longer rehearsing, but remembering. I am already that. Even if the outer world has not yet changed, this inner shift is the true manifestation. It is the invisible root that guarantees the visible fruit. For when your self-talk flows from the end, when your words are woven with the peace of arrival, the world must reflect it, not because it chooses to, but because it has no choice. It is not your willpower that does this. It is your alignment. You don't need louder affirmations. You need asterisk, truer identity asterisk, and identity speaks. Identity declares. Identity assumes as natural what once felt impossible. And so in every moment, you are being shown what you truly believe, not by what you say once, but by what you say without effort. Can you feel that now? That your inner voice is not just reacting to life. It is asterisk projecting asterisk. This is why imagination and inner dialogue must walk together. Imagination shows you the scene. Inner speech gives it breath. The two become one. And when they do, the word becomes flesh. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. John 1:1. Your word not spoken aloud, but spoken within. Asterisk is asterisk God in action. And what you continually speak, you continually shape. Your world is the echo of your own assumptions spoken to yourself. This is why nothing is truly hidden. The quality of your life reveals the tone of your inner monologue. Not to judge, but to awaken. For you can always change it. You can begin now. Not by fighting the old voice, but by gently introducing a new one. You do not need to shout into your mind. You only need to whisper what is already true. I am chosen. I am safe. I am the one it happens for. It is already mine. And when these phrases no longer feel like effort, when they arise naturally, like breath, the change is complete. The state has been entered. The assumption has been made. And the law is already at work, sculpting reality around the self you have accepted. But this acceptance is not passive. It is devotion, not to the outer world, but to the sacred image within. Each time you catch yourself drifting into old speech, you return, not with guilt, but with gentleness. For the inner voice is shaped by repetition and love, not force. You are not trying to fix yourself. You are simply returning to who you truly are, and who you truly are has never lacked, never waited, never begged. You are the operant power. And as this truth settles deeper into your silence, something begins to dissolve. The old hunger, the effort, the grasping. In its place comes a new rhythm, a quiet knowing, a sense that you no longer need to make asterisk it happen, because you have asterisk become asterisk, the one for whom it has already happened. Yet this invites a deeper layer still, for even after assuming the end, after aligning the voice, many still stumble upon one haunting question, asterisk. But what if the world contradicts what I feel inside? Asterisk. And that leads us into one of the most sacred truths of all, the illusion of evidence, and the divine discipline of remaining faithful to the unseen. And so it comes that moment, when the world does not yet mirror the light you've chosen within. The scene outside still bears the fingerprint of the former state, the echo of what you used to believe. And in that echo, doubt tries to rise again. If it were true, the mind whispers, wouldn't I see it by now? But do you see the trap? You are asked to remain loyal not to evidence but to essence, not to appearances but to assumption. For the world reflects the asterisk past tense asterisk of your being. What you see is never the cause. It is always the effect. It is the ash, not the flame. This is why manifestation seems slow to those who judge by sight. They speak new truths with their lips, but return to old certainties with their gaze. They check, they measure, they look for proof, not realizing that this very act affirms the opposite of the thing desired. The checking is the doubting, the measuring is the delay. But faith, true faith, does not look to see if the thing is there. Faith asterisk knows asterisk, it is already so. There is a sacred boldness in this, a refusal to bow before the facts of the senses, not because the senses lie, but because they are incomplete. They are servants of the mind, not masters. They report only what you have been, never what you have asterisk become asterisk in imagination. So you learn to look with different eyes, eyes of the spirit, eyes that see beyond the veil of the moment. And in that seeing, you discover the secret power of inner silence. For in silence the seed rests undisturbed. Imagine planting a seed and digging it up each morning to check its roots. It would never grow. So too with your assumption. Once planted, it must be honored, not poked, not questioned, but watered with faith. And that faith is shown willingness to act, think and feel from the end. Asterisk before asterisk, the outer world catches up. You walk as if, you speak as if, you asterisk or asterisk as if. Not to pretend, but because it is already true within. And if it is true within, then it asterisk must asterisk become true without. This is the law, eternal and unbroken. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1. It is not blindness, it is deeper sight, a holy rebellion against the tyranny of circumstance. And here something beautiful begins to unfold. You realize the contradiction was never a problem. It was a mirror, showing you where your loyalty still wavers. Every time the world presents something opposite to your desire, you are given a gift, the opportunity to remain in the new state despite the temptation to return to the old. This is how the new self is born. Not by arguing with facts, but by asterisk refusing to be defined by the asterisk. You become the one who holds their inner certainty like flame cupped against the wind. Quiet, steady, unmoved. And soon the world begins to yield, not because you forced it, but because you asterisk ceased to negotiate with it asterisk. It has no power of its own. The power is in the assumption, the identity, the dwelling. And once you have truly crossed over, the old facts become irrelevant. They melt like snow under sunlight. And you forget to look for signs, because the inner reality becomes so rich, so present, so alive, that the outer must follow, not as a test passed, but as a reflection returned. Can you feel it? This surrender, this inner devotion to what the world calls unseen, is the bridge. Not to the desire, but to the self who already has it. You are not becoming that self. You are asterisk, remembering asterisk that you've always been. And yet, there is still something softer, more intimate, awaiting discovery. For even the assumption, even the inner voice, is rooted in something deeper. The sacred stillness beneath all doing, all speaking, all imagining, the state before state, the ground before form, that holy silence where all creation begins, and now, you are ready to enter it. So you arrive at the threshold of stillness, not as an effort, but as a gentle descent into the core of your being, beneath all images, beneath all words, beneath even the feeling of assumption, there is silence. And this silence is not empty, it is holy. It is the womb of all manifestation. Before the world was, I am. This sacred truth, so simple and quiet, is the foundation upon which every desire rests. For it is not imagination that creates reality. It is asterisk, consciousness, asterisk. And imagination is only one way consciousness plays. When you return to the root, when you fall inward into the quiet awareness of being, you remember that all things arise from you, not toward you. You do not chase the dream. You sit in the stillness where it is already known. In this state, there is no tension, no need to visualize, no need to affirm. You rest as the beginning and end, the Alpha and the Omega. And from that resting, life begins to echo your stillness. Manifestation flows not as achievement, but as recognition. You do not make the waves. You simply stop resisting the ocean. Do you feel how soft that is? How undemanding? This is the opposite of striving, the opposite of trying to prove your worth. It is the sacred pause that births the entire universe. The void that is not void at all, but fullness without form. Most fear stillness. They seek methods and movement, believing something must be done. But creation does not come from doing. It comes from asterisk being asterisk. And being is always now, always here, always whole. When you surrender into this presence, this quiet awareness of I am, you are not escaping the world. You are stepping behind its curtain. You are touching the source from which every scene, every person, every object has sprung. And the moment you dwell in this presence without needing to decorate it, the world rearranges to reflect its wholeness. There is nothing you need to fix from here, nothing to ask for, because from here you are no longer a character in the play. You are the light behind the stage. This is why the highest prayer is not a plea. It is a recognition. I and my Father are one. John 10:30. Not someday, not once the desire arrives, but now, always now. You were never separate. You were never less than divine. The moment you accept this union, without needing proof or confirmation, everything that once felt withheld begins to reveal itself, not because it is new, but because your eyes have changed. You see, Manifestation is not about bringing something into being. It is about removing the layers of identity that made you forget it was already yours. You thought you had to climb the mountain, but you were always the peak. You thought you had to earn the light, but you are the light. And from this knowing, not as a thought, but as a felt presence, creation becomes effortless. Your desires flow to you, not because you want them, but because they are natural to the one you've remembered yourself to be. You no longer speak to manifest. You speak because it is true. You no longer imagine to get. You imagine because you've already received. And even imagination now becomes a gentle companion, not a tool for results, but a dance with divine essence. You do not imagine to change the world. You imagine to commune with it, as one with the dreamer who dreams in the dream that unfolds. And what you imagine in this silence carries a power beyond will. It becomes a decree, spoken from the throne of consciousness itself. So rest here, even for a moment. Let the stillness hold you. Let it speak without words. Let it cleanse the noise of needing and returning. For in this silence, the law is fulfilled. In this silence, you touch the instant of all things. But there remains one more veil to lift, a final illusion that clings even after you have assumed the end and tasted the stillness. It is the illusion of separation between yourself and others, and the sacred truth that your world is not filled with strangers, but with echoes of your own being. And as the stillness settles, something even more radical begins to awaken within you, the realization that there is no other, no one outside of you to convince, no power beyond you to persuade. Every figure in your world, every voice you encounter, every circumstance that appears, is none other than yourself pushed out. This truth is not metaphor. It is the mystery hidden in plain sight. You do not live in a world of separate beings. You live in a world of reflected states. Each person plays a role you cast in the silent theater of your own consciousness. Their responses, their actions, even their words, all arise from the assumption you hold about them, or about yourself in relation to them. And the moment you shift your assumption, they shift too. There is no waiting required, no convincing necessary. The world is not a negotiation. It is a mirror, and the mirror has no choice but to show you your most consistent inner conversation. Feel the quiet power of that. You do not need to beg for love. You do not need to plead for recognition. The one who already is loved, already chosen, already honored. That one simply abides in the knowing, and the world rushes to comply, not because others have changed their mind, but because you have changed your state. What once seemed like rejection was only the echo of your own self-concept. What once felt like abandonment was only the absence of your own inner embrace. And so you no longer need to chase affection or approval. You simply become the one for whom such things are natural. You assume, not that someone might love you, but that you are already the embodiment of love itself, and love must return to its source. This is the heart of divine union, no longer seeing others as separate, but as sacred shadows of the states you dwell in. This is why you cannot judge and manifest clearly at the same time, for judgment binds you to the old self. When you condemn another, you reinforce the assumption that created the condition. But when you revise the scene, when you see them anew, when you choose to speak silently of their highest possibility, you free both of you in one breath. What you see in another, you awaken in yourself. And so manifestation becomes a deeply intimate unfolding, not of acquiring things, but of remembering wholeness, not of changing others, but of transforming the lens through which they are known. It is not a strategy, it is a return. Judge not according to appearance, but judge righteous judgment. John 7:24. You no longer judge by behavior, by the surface of events. You judge by the truth beneath all appearance, that every soul is God wearing a mask, and every mask responds to the assumption behind your gaze. This is why your assumption is always instant, because the world is not out there, it is here, inside your awareness, moving at the speed of thought, shifting at the command of belief, not because you are willing it to change, but because you are finally seeing it as it truly is. You no longer wait for the call, you become the one who is already called. You no longer hope to be seen, you assume you are the scene, and the eyes arrive. Every role in your play, every interaction, becomes sacred, not because others change, but because your self-concept changes, and the reflection has no power to delay. So the question is never, will they show up differently? The only question is, who am I in relation to them now? And when that identity is stable, not as a performance, but as a resting place, the world reorganizes without effort. Conversations shift, reunions occur, people who once turned away begin to lean in, and it seems as though the world has softened. But in truth, you have. You have remembered that your world is you, dreamed into form, and once that knowing roots itself in stillness, another layer reveals itself, so subtle and soft it could almost be missed. The realization that your desire itself is proof of its own fulfillment, that you could not long for something that does not already exist within you, as you now. So then, what if the very ache you feel is not absence but evidence? What if the longing is not lack but a memory, a divine echo calling you home to a version of yourself you have already become in the invisible? Not a hope, but a hint, not a need, but a knowing, wrapped in disguise. Desire is not the beginning of a journey. It is the sign that the thing is already yours. You could not want what is not already alive within you, for nothing outside of you can call to you unless it first lives as you. Your desire is the proof of possession, and the moment you honor it as such, the waiting collapses. Most feel the spark of a desire, and respond with doubt. Why do I want this? When will it come? What must I do? But the deeper soul, the one who knows the laws of the inner temple, receives desire with reverence, with certainty, with praise, as if the gift has already been given, because it has asterisk. You are not desiring a future, you are remembering a self, and this self is whole, not in becoming, but in being. The desire is simply your current identity, brushing against the veil of your next, and the moment you yield to it, not by striving but by assuming the veil parts. There is no timeline to fulfillment, only the readiness of embodiment. You do not wait for it to happen. You become the one for whom it is already true, and from that becoming, all else must follow. It is not a matter of permission. The universe is not granting or withholding. It is reflecting, echoing, responding to your own acceptance. And the more gently, the more reverently you lean into that truth, the more swiftly the illusion of delay dissolves. The instant you claim it, it claims you, but not from force, not from repetition or effort, or proving. From the still, unwavering assumption that what you are being is already real, that what you feel drawn to is not outside of you, but within, waiting only for your agreement. So the desire, once feared or questioned, becomes sacred. It becomes a doorway, and you no longer ask when you ask only, who am I, now that this is mine? And that question opens a world. You begin to shift not by acting differently, but by feeling differently, You dwell in the house of already. You taste the scene inwardly. You carry yourself, not as the one in pursuit, but as the one who remembers. And the difference, though invisible at first, resounds like thunder through your reality. The world doesn't resist you. It simply responds to the you you're loyal to. So stay loyal to the end, to the version of you that feels natural in the dream fulfilled. Let that self speak for you, walk for you, make decisions for you. And the moment you do, you will begin to notice what you once called coincidence. Doors opening, words repeated, paths unfolding, are not chance. They are the mirror beginning to shimmer with the image you've silently held. Delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thine heart. Psalm 37. 4. Not by pleading, but by delight. Delight in what already is. Delight in the secret that you are one with the wish, one with the fulfillment, one with the source from which all things arise. And as you delight, desire no longer feels urgent. It no longer hurts. It no longer demands. It becomes light. It becomes love. It becomes love. It becomes a familiar warmth that no longer waits to be received, because you have realized, in stillness, that it was never apart from you . This is why manifestation is always instant, because the desire does not create the reality, the assumption does. And the moment you assume, not as performance, but as truth, the law is fulfilled. But now another sacred turning invites you deeper still, for as you awaken to your identity as the operant power, you begin to see that even so-called obstacles were never in your way, they were your way. So you begin to see even the shadows as sacred, not as delays, not as blocks, but as veiled invitations. The very moments you once called resistance, you now recognize as the path itself. For nothing in your world ever works against you. It is all answering to your assumption. All of it. Even the struggle was scripted by the self you were being. There is nothing accidental, no encounter, no delay, no closed door exists apart from your consciousness. You are never being tested by the universe. You are being revealed to yourself. The so-called obstacle is not proof that your assumption has failed. It is the precise form required to asterisk, bring it to life asterisk. What you once called a detour was the bridge. What you feared as loss was the pruning of the false self. And what you labeled resistance was only the final echo of the old identity, a shell falling away as the new you emerges. So the question is never, why is this happening? But always, who have I been? And when you answer gently, when you refuse to accuse or regret, you find peace even in the unfolding. You meet the moment not as a threat, but as a mirror. And in that reflection, you reclaim your authorship. You are not here to fight the scene. You are here to remember you wrote it. And in that remembering, something softens. You no longer demand that life be smooth. You only ask that it be aligned. And it always is, perfectly echoing the assumptions you carry in silence. This is where the law of assumption becomes sacred rhythm. You assume not to make things happen. You assume because it is asterisk who you are. And when the old world trembles as it dissolves, you do not panic. You do not flinch. You know, this is the rearrangement. This is the bridge of incidents unfolding, and the bridge, though it may seem ordinary or even difficult, is always perfect. It leads you without effort to the thing you already possess in consciousness. You never need to force it. You only need to walk it, step by step, thought by thought, returning again and again to the identity you've claimed, not as performance, but as presence. And the world bends, because consciousness is not passive, it is generative, and every assumption plants a seed. Some bloom immediately, others grow in silence, but all respond to the gardener, to your inner posture, your speech, your quiet imaginal acts. So you stop asking, why is this taking time? And you begin asking, am I being the one who has? And from that place, even hardship transforms. The missed call becomes a redirection toward clarity. The closed door becomes proof of what no longer fits the new identity. The silence becomes sacred space for inner anchoring. And everything becomes a part of the unfolding, not by chance, but by law. Behold, I will do a new thing. Now it shall spring forth, shall you not know it? Isaiah 43:19. The new thing springs forth, not when the world gives permission, but when you assume it is done, and remain there faithfully, even when the outer form still lags behind. You are never at the mercy of the facts. You are the one who gave them meaning, and now with new eyes you choose again. You assume peace, and the world begins to calm. You assume love, and the cold faces begin to warm. You assume abundance, and what once seemed distant arrives without effort. And even if it takes a form you didn't expect, you know, it is still the fulfillment. It is still the echo of the inner choice. So you no longer wait to feel good. You feel good because you've remembered who you are. You are not separate from your desire. You are not hoping for it. You are it. And every scene is reshaping to match that truth. But just as the outer begins to catch up, there is one more illusion that often slips beneath the surface. The idea that consistency is hard, that the state is fragile, that you must guard it with effort. And this brings us to one of the most liberating revelations of all, the naturalness of the new self. And now the effort fades. The strain to maintain the state dissolves like mist at sunrise. You realize the true self does not require guarding. The new identity, once fully assumed, is not fragile. It is natural, You do not need to hold it tightly. You only need to be it asterisk. A rose does not strive to stay a rose. A flame does not try to stay lit. And the one who is awakened to the fulfilled state does not need to keep proving it. They simply are. Their thoughts flow from it. Their breath carries it. Their world bends not because they are trying, but because they've become. This is the ease of embodiment, the holy weightlessness of inner alignment. When you first begin, the state may feel like a costume. You try it on. You imagine the scenes. You whisper the phrases. You rehearse the tone of someone who has already received. And this is beautiful. It is the tender beginning of awakening. But the moment you relax into that state, not as something you're doing, but as something you've always been, a quiet miracle unfolds. You forget to try, and in that forgetting, you become. No more checking if it's working, no more returning to the old identity for contrast. No more seeking signs to reassure yourself, because your peace is now the sign. Your stillness is the proof. The external hasn't caught up yet, perhaps, but your soul no longer cares, because it knows because it is asterisk. Feel how restful that is, how gentle, how whole. Most struggle, not because they lack discipline, but because they have not yet realized that the state they're trying to keep is meant to feel like home, not performance, not posture. Home. When the state feels like home, you stop leaving it. You stop efforting your way into it. You live from it, and the world in turn becomes your reflection, not your judge. And this is why manifestation is instant. Not in appearance, always, but in essence. The shift does not take days. It takes surrender. And the moment you surrender to the new identity, the old world loses its hold. People begin treating you differently, not because they changed, but because your vibration no longer invites the old roles. Opportunities find you not because you chased them, but because you finally aligned with the version of yourself that belongs to them. You notice you're not asking how anymore, you're not measuring progress, you're not needing confirmation, because something in you has settled. The battle is over, and in that peace the bridge forms. Your outer world becomes an afterthought. You smile more, you wait less, you embody without trying, and the assumptions that once felt foreign now feel like second nature. You no longer need reminders, because the new self no longer feels new, it is you. The kingdom of God is within you. Luke 17:21, not far off, not arriving later, within. The moment you accept that your inner state is the cause, and that the cause is already complete, you no longer fear the shifting scenery of life. You know the script is yours. You realize too that you cannot fall from the state. You can only temporarily forget, and even that forgetting is part of the return. For each time you remember, the truth becomes deeper, quieter, more embodied. And the more you dwell in the naturalness of the wish fulfilled, the more inevitable its outer appearance becomes. You no longer chase, you radiate . You no longer fear inconsistency, you rest in identity, and from that resting place, a new kind of life emerges, one where fulfillment is not a destination, but a frequency, where peace is not a reward, but a signal, where the world bends, not because you fought for it, but because you finally saw yourself clearly. But what happens when the manifestation arrives? When the thing once longed for now stands before you in form, the call is returned, the money arrives, the healing completes, the person reappears. That moment reveals something deeper still, that the outer thing was never the treasure was the transformation within. And that leads to the most profound remembering of all, you were never manifesting to get, you were manifesting to awaken . So when it arrives, that thing you once imagined in the stillness, it almost feels like déjà vu. Not a shock, not an arrival, but a quiet return. Familiar, fitting, as though the world has simply caught up with what you've known in secret. And this is the great unveiling that you were never chasing the thing. You were chasing the self who already held it. The true gift of manifestation is not the form. It is the awakening of your identity. All that you sought on the outside was always pointing you inward, to the you that remembered, the you that claimed, the you that already was . And when the form comes, you may smile, you may cry, you may give thanks. But something in you knows. It is not the destination, it is the echo. The real transformation happened long before the event, long before the door opened, long before the person returned, long before the money was transferred or the body was healed. The real miracle was choosing again and again to assume a state that felt invisible, intangible, and yet somehow more real than anything you could touch. You did not manifest it, you remembered it, and reality bent to your remembrance. This is the meaning of seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you. Matthew 6:33. Not earned, not begged for, added, because the kingdom is not a place, it is a state. The moment you abide there in the feeling of wholeness, of already, the rest comes by law. And when it does, the outer no longer holds power over you. It no longer defines you. You appreciate the manifestation, but you no longer depend on it for your sense of being. Because you've touched the real treasure, your own divine imagination, your own operant identity. This is why even fulfilled desires can feel soft, gentle, almost ordinary when they arrive. Not because they are small, but because you've already lived them so completely in your inner world, they feel inevitable. You do not celebrate them as if they came from nowhere. You receive them as a lover returned, as something deeply known. And yet, even in that satisfaction, there's another kind of invitation, not to reach again, but to dwell deeper. To live from the knowing that everything already asterisk is asterisk, that creation is finished, that you are never without, only choosing, and that choosing happens now, always now. You do not create from hunger, you create from fullness. You assume not to grasp, but to rest, and from that resting, life flows. You don't need to ask the old questions anymore. How long will it take? What if it doesn't come? What if I lose it? Because now you understand, there is no it apart from asterisk, you asterisk. There is no separation between you and the thing. There never was. You are not a body hoping for a blessing. You are consciousness revealing its own wholeness through time. And in that realization, even the need to manifest can fall away. Not because you are giving up, but because you no longer see yourself as someone without. The cycle of longing completes itself, and in its place arises a sacred simplicity. I am. And from asterisk I am asterisk, all things come. This is why even when nothing is changing outside, everything is changing inside. This is why even when the world appears unchanged, you know you are different. And that knowing, quiet, unwavering, sacred, is the true sign. The sign that you have returned to yourself. The sign that what you once pursued, you now carry. And the world will confirm it not with force, but with grace. But what of the times when you fall back? When old thoughts return? When the world provokes you, and you react as the former self? Even this too becomes sacred once you understand. You can never truly lose the state. You can only momentarily forget, and every forgetting is just another door to remembrance, another invitation to asterisk, return asterisk. So even when the mind forgets, even when the old world seems to reappear, you are not lost. You are being gently led back to remembrance. And this is the mercy of the law, that every lapse is not failure, but invitation. Every reaction is not punishment, but a mirror, softly asking, asterisk, who are you now? You are never punished for forgetting. You are simply shown the fruit of the assumption you've momentarily revisited. And the moment you see it, you can choose again, instantly, quietly, without drama or delay. No need to fix the scene, no need to rehearse the path. You close your eyes, return inward, and rest in the feeling of the wish fulfilled. And just like that, the world begins again. The old reflection fades, and a new one forms. Not because you forced it, but because you return to the only place creation ever begins. Asterisk, consciousness. Asterisk. You do not need to fear slipping. The state is not a tightrope, it is a resting place. You fall back into it as gently as breath, and the more you do, the more natural it becomes. Until one day, what once felt like effort becomes your default vibration. You walk as the one who has, without remembering when you began. This is grace. You no longer argue with appearances. You no longer plead with time. You do not fight the old identity. You simply stop feeding it. You starve it of attention. And in that silence, the old self dissolves. Even your mistakes begin to serve you. For in each one, you catch a glimpse of your old pattern. And that glimpse is a gift, because you can only revise what you have seen. You can only transcend what you've owned. And so with each moment of forgetting, you are given another opportunity to reclaim. This is why the law is so perfect, so gentle, so just. It does not reward good behavior or punish error. It reflects only your most dominant assumption. It gives you back to yourself, over and over, until you awaken. Awake thou that sleepest, and arise from the dead, and Christ shall give thee light. Ephesians 5:14. The death is not of the body, it is the death of forgetting. And Christ, your imagination, your inner spark of divine memory, brings the light not from heaven above, but from the silence within. So when you slip, bless the moment. Do not fear it. Do not call yourself unworthy. Do not spiral into shame. Instead, recognize it for what it is, a sacred signal that something old has risen, and that you are now strong enough to let it go. You do not dwell there. You observe it, revise it, and return. And each return becomes quicker, lighter, more immediate, until one day, you realize you no longer live in fear of forgetting, because you trust your own power to remember. That trust is what stabilizes the state. Not repetition, not perfection, not control. Asterisk. Trust asterisk. You trust that the new self is already formed. You trust that what is felt in imagination is as real as anything seen with eyes. You trust that what you assume consistently, lovingly, and without strain, must take shape, not someday, but now. And so you live gently, quietly, powerfully. You respond from your end, not toward it. You walk through your world as the operant power, not because you are better, but because you are asterisk. Aware asterisk, aware that everything begins in you, aware that nothing can be taken from you, because nothing was ever separate to begin with. And from that awareness comes a new kind of joy, not the joy of arrival, but the joy of alignment. You begin to love the assumption more than the evidence. You begin to cherish the state more than the manifestation. And even when nothing has changed in the outer world, you smile, because you have changed, and that change is everything. But if even this truth, this inner knowing, still feels distant at times, if the state you seek still feels unfamiliar or hard to hold, then you are ready for a truth that transcends all effort, the mystery of how the state chooses asterisk, you asterisk, the moment you allow it. And as you stop trying to hold the state, it holds you, like water meeting still hands, like light filling a room without effort. The moment you stop striving to become, the state that always was begins to rise within you. It is not summoned, it is remembered. And the moment you allow it, it wraps around you like something ancient and intimate, because it is. You did not create the new self, you made space for it. You allowed it to surface. This is the quiet paradox of manifestation, that what you call a decision is often a surrender, not a forcing of identity, but a yielding to the identity that was waiting behind the noise. You don't become it through effort, you become it through agreement. Feel the softness in that. The state is already whole, already formed, already living in the infinite field of now, and your only task is to say yes to it, not with words but with willingness, to receive it without resistance, to let it feel natural, familiar, inevitable. And as it settles over you, something begins to shift, not in the outer world, not yet, but in the rhythm of your being. Your thoughts align without trying. Your responses begin to change. The inner voice no longer argues. It no longer doubts. It simply speaks from the place of already. This is when manifestation becomes instant, not because the thing has appeared, but because the you who once doubted is no longer here. The identity has changed. And when identity shifts, the world must answer. It must conform, not out of obligation, but out of design. For consciousness is the mold, the pattern, the origin of every reflection. So now you are not asking, how do I get into the state? You are asking, where have I been resisting its presence? And the answers come, gently. A thought you didn't question, a fear you held as fact, an old story you mistook for truth. And when you see it, not in judgment, but in light, it falls away. The new self does not require convincing, it only requires permission. And this is why many feel the shift so suddenly. One moment they are trying to believe, the next they asterisk are asterisk, and they do not know what changed, only that the struggle dissolved. The argument ended, and peace arrived. You don't have to know how it happens. You only need to allow the happening. You do not need to reach for the state. You need only to rest long enough for it to asterisk, find you asterisk. This is the divine rhythm. You imagine, you assume, you return. And when you are quiet enough, still enough, the state arises on its own. You feel it wrap around you, not as fantasy, not as something you're trying to hold, but as something that has always belonged to you. And suddenly, it's not hard to stay there, because it doesn't feel like pretending anymore. It feels like truth. Come unto me, all ye that labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Matthew 11:28. The rest is not found in the world. The rest is found in identity. The one who no longer strives to become, but accepts that they already are. So you stop pushing. You stop repeating out of fear. You stop peeking to see if it's working. And you begin to live as if there is no gap. Because now you asterisk, no asterisk, there never was. You are no longer the one who waits. You are the one who welcomes. And as you walk through the day, you begin to notice how effortlessly the state carries you. You speak differently, not because you're trying to sound like the one who has, but because you asterisk are asterisk, the one who has. And yet, even here, even in this rest, there is a deeper secret still, that all of this, every desire, every shift, every act of assumption, is the dream of God unfolding through you. And when you see this, you realize you are not just the dreamer, you are also the dream. And so it dawns, softly but unmistakably, that you are not simply imagining life, you are life imagined. You are the dream of God made visible, clothed in time, walking in scenes you first conceived in silence. And yet, you are also the dreamer, the one shaping it, the one awakening within it. This is the holy paradox, that you are both seed and sower, canvas and painter, stage and actor, dream and dreamer. And once you glimpse this, everything changes, not in appearance, but in meaning. The scenes you walk through are no longer judged, they are interpreted. You no longer resist what unfolds, you recognize it. You no longer ask, why is this happening to me? But whisper with reverence, this too is me. There is nothing outside of awareness, and that awareness is you. So now manifestation becomes less about calling things in, and more about seeing them rightly, less about obtaining, and more about aligning. The more deeply you understand this, the more you find that every condition, every desire, even every so-called delay, was part of your own divine unfolding. You were never wrong, you were never late, you were simply asleep to your authorship. And now you awaken. You see the people around you, not as separate wills, but as mirrors playing their part. You see your past, not as burden, but as blueprint. You see your desires, not as something to get, but as reminders of who you already are. You no longer try to make things happen. You trust that they are happening through you. You become curious instead of panicked, gentle instead of forceful, grateful before the evidence arrives, because the dream has changed, and so must the reflection. Feel that now, that sacred shift, that calm authority, that sense that you are not waiting for life to respond. You are the response. This is why even your desire is divine. You were not wrong to want. You were simply mistaken in thinking the desire was separate. It was never elsewhere. It was never outside. It rose in you because it was you. And once embraced, it must fulfill itself. Not by accident, by design. To whom God would make known what is the riches of the glory, which is Christ in you, the hope of glory. Colossians 1:27. Christ, the creative power of God, is in you, not in the sky, not in a far-off realm, not in someone more worthy, in you, whispering as your imagination, moving as your assumption, living as your identity. And when you realize this, not as a philosophy, but as an experience, you become still. Not because there is nothing left to create, but because you finally know creation is finished, and your only task is to enter the state that aligns with what already is. You don't beg the dream to change. You become the one who dreams anew, and the moment you do, the world stirs, the pieces move, the call is made, the way opens, and it feels effortless, not because it took no time, but because time itself bends around the depth of your embodiment. You do not need more proof. You only need deeper presence, and in that presence, what once felt impossible begins to arrive as if it had always been there, because in truth it had. It simply awaited your recognition. So now you walk softly, not because you are unsure, but because you are certain. The certainty is quiet. It does not need to shout. It does not need to prove. It radiates from the one who knows that the scene is already written, and that the role has already been claimed. And yet, even here, even in the fulfillment, a greater question begins to arise, not about what you can manifest, but about who you are beyond all desire. What remains when nothing is missing? Who speaks when the voice of seeking has gone silent? What is left when there is no more to become? So when the seeking ends, when the longing quiets, when the last thread of need untangles itself from your being, something vast and unspeakably still remains. You, without effort, without name, without even desire. Just pure awareness, watching, being, radiating. You are no longer moving toward fulfillment. You are fulfillment. Not a body with thoughts, not a voice with dreams, but the silent witness behind it all. Spacious, present, whole. And in that space where nothing is missing, you finally see that every desire was only a mirror, a reflection of your own divine unfolding. You were never chasing the thing. You were peeling away the layers between you and remembrance. There is no more struggle, no more proving. You have arrived by realizing there was nowhere to go. This is the moment when true power awakens. Not the power to get, but the power to rest asterisk. Not the power to change things, but to know that everything has already changed the moment you see it rightly. For when the desire dissolves into identity, there is nothing left to chase. The imagined becomes real, not because it appeared, but because you no longer questioned its presence. It is not that the thing fulfilled you, it's that you saw yourself clearly enough to no longer seek it. You were never the seeker. You were the source and yet the world continues. The scenes unfold, the conversations carry on, but you are no longer grasping at them for meaning. You give meaning, you give life, you give form, without urgency, without resistance, and even as new desires rise, and they will softly, like morning light, you meet them not with hunger, but with grace. You know now, desire is not lack, it is movement, it is the current of awareness seeking deeper expression, and you allow it, as you would allow a river to flow. You do not cling, you do not chase, you simply feel the direction of your becoming, and you go. You manifest not to complete yourself, but to express yourself, not to attain identity, but to reveal it. And in this stillness, you remember what was always true, that all things were finished from the foundation of the world. Hebrews 4:3, that creation was not a beginning, but a revealing and that time is not a line, but a mirror, showing you only what you have assumed. You assume now, not to force the world, but to join it. You assume now, because it is your nature to create, to dream, to know yourself anew in every breath, and yet you do so without effort, without strain, without even hope, for hope implies distance. And here in this stillness, there is no distance left. You live now as the one who has not because you earned it, but because you remembered that you already did. Even your thoughts feel different now. They are not reaching forward, they are resting inward. Every assumption feels like a soft knowing, a quiet agreement with what already is. You no longer ask the world to echo you. You expect it, not from arrogance, but from alignment. And the world does echo, more and more, quickly and quietly. It becomes your reflection, not your obstacle, your canvas, not your judge, your garden, not your test. And what once felt like striving now feels like breathing. So the question that once haunted you, how long will it take, fades into irrelevance, because now you understand, it took no time at all, it was always instant. You just had to become still enough to notice But even here, even in this soft finality, another truth stirs from within. For if all is finished, if you are the dreamer and the dream, then what exactly is real What is the substance of this world you walk through, and how does one live from the center of that mystery? So you begin to wonder, if the outer world bends to inner vision, if time is only the echo of assumption, if fulfillment is instant once embodied, then what is real? What is this world made of? And how does one walk through it once the dreamer has awakened within the dream? The answer is not found in analysis, but in stillness. Reality is not solid, it is not fixed, it is fluid, pliable, reflective, shaped moment by the state you occupy. What you call real is only a shadow of your assumption cast in form. Substance is not in the thing, substance is in the feeling, the mood, the knowing. You no longer chase evidence because you now understand. Evidence follows consciousness. It is all consciousness, all of it. Not just the things you affirm or visualize, but the subtle tone of your being, the state you carry in silence, the inner conversations no one hears but all respond to. You touch a cup, a hand, a surface, and call it real. But it is only real because you, the dreamer, have given it shape. Without your awareness to interpret it, it would be nothing. And so the substance of things is not matter, it is mind, it is you. And this is the deeper awakening, that what you assumed was outside of you has never been outside The wall, the sky, the stranger, the sound, all of it is appearing in not around you, not to you, in you. You are not in the dream. The dream is in you This is why manifestation is instant, because there is nowhere else it needs to arrive from. There is no distance to travel. There is no external force to persuade. The moment you assume the end, the moment you claim the identity, the dream within you shifts. And so the world, being nothing more than a mirror, must also shift. Not someday, now. You've seen this happen, haven't you? A thought becomes a mood A mood becomes a response becomes a scene. And then you say, that just happened to me. But nothing ever asterisk happens to you asterisk. It happens asterisk through you asterisk. Always through you, and always from a state. So the question becomes tender and inward. What state are you honoring now? Not what are you doing? Not what are you planning? What are you asterisk being asterisk? This is the center from which reality arises, not action, being. You can build 1,000 steps toward a goal, but if the state is still one of lack, the world will return it to you dressed in complexity, effort, and delay. But if you simply asterisk become asterisk, the one who has, the one who is, the one who knows, the path clears, not because it was hidden, but because you stopped looking from the eyes of separation. This is the sacred reversal. You do not manifest things. You asterisk manifest states asterisk, and states contain worlds. Every time you step into the feeling of already, into the naturalness of having, being, knowing, the scene must obey. It must reflect your depth, not your words, not your hopes, your asterisk essence asterisk. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. Hebrews 11:1, not tomorrow, now, because in the now, there is no waiting, only claiming, only assuming, only resting in what already is. And this is the true power of the awakened dreamer, not to change the world, but to asterisk reveal asterisk it, to live from the end, so fully and so quietly, that the outer must yield, and when it does, you are not surprised, you are not impressed, you are still, because you knew, you always knew. But even this knowing leads you into a new mystery, for if all reality is reflection, if the world is yourself pushed out, then what becomes of fear, of doubt, of pain? And what sacred role do they play in the instant unfolding of your desire? And so you ask, if I am the dreamer, if the world reflects only my state, then why does fear still arise? Why do shadows still pass through the mirror? And what does pain have to do with the perfection of instant manifestation? It is here in this question that the soul begins to mature, for fear is not the enemy. It is the echo of a former self dissolving. It is the tension between two identities, the one you have assumed, and the one that no longer fits. Doubt is not failure. It is a last whisper from the old state, asking for one final breath before it dies. Pain itself, when seen through the eye of awareness, becomes sacred, not because it is good in itself, but because it asterisk reveals asterisk. It shows you what belief you've accepted, what version of yourself you've continued to feed in secret, and once seen it can be released. You do not conquer fear by force. You disarm it by understanding. You pause. You observe. You do not react. And in that stillness, fear loses its power, because it was never a monster. It was a mirror. And the moment you stop mistaking the reflection for the truth, you are free. This is how manifestation remains instant, even when fear arises. The fear does not delay it. Only your identification with the fear delays your recognition of the fulfillment. But the moment you shift, the moment you step out of the reactive state and back into the chosen one, the bridge reappears beneath your feet, and you find that what once felt like delay was simply the detour of your attention. Nothing was lost. The assumption was still alive. You had only turned away. So now, when fear arises, you do not panic. You do not spiral. You smile even softly, and say to yourself, asterisk, this is the old echo. But I am no longer that. You revise the thought. You revise the memory. You return to the end. And the state takes you back, as it always does, without punishment, without judgment. The state is unconditional. It holds no grudges. It waits silently, to be remembered. This is how you begin to honor even the contrast. Not to dwell in it, not to justify it, but to recognize its purpose, to reveal where you've turned from truth, so you may turn back. The pain does not delay the manifestation. The doubt does not undo the law. They are simply the rumblings of the shell as it cracks open. And once you stop fighting them, they pass, like clouds across an eternal sky. The sky never fears the storm. It only watches. And so do you. Because you know now, you are not the emotion. You are the awareness beneath it. You are not the thought. You are the chooser. You are not the reflection. You are the source. This alone disarms the illusion of delay. You are no longer at the mercy of your reactions. You are the one who sees, selects and assumes again. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. Isaiah 41. Stand. Not as comfort from another, but as the voice of your higher self, reminding you that fear is not real, it is memory, and memory can be rewritten. You revise not because the past needs changing, but because you do, and once you do, the world that faithful servant obeys. And now, you can walk through fear as you walk through a dream, lightly, lovingly, knowing it cannot touch what is already yours. The state is stronger, the end is already true, and if fear should whisper again, you welcome it as a fading echo, the last flicker of a world you no longer live in. But this opens yet another invitation, for as you grow familiar with peace, with embodiment, with the effortless arrival of your assumption, you begin to feel the pull of something even greater than fulfillment, a yearning not just to receive, but to radiate, not just to remember your power, but to bless with it. And now a deeper grace begins to stir in you. Not the grace of receiving, but the grace of radiating. Something shifts in the heart when fulfillment is no longer a question. When you have assumed, embodied, and allowed the new self to bloom, there is a gentle turning outward, not from need, from overflow. You begin to feel what can only be described as a divine generosity, not to give what you do not have, but to share what you have always been, not to fix the world, but to see it rightly, and in seeing, to free it. Once you know the truth of instant manifestation, once you have lived the rhythm of assumption and seen the world mirror it faithfully, you no longer look upon others with pity, you look with vision. You no longer hear their fears and confirm them. You hear what they could be and you call that forth in silence. You bless them with your assumption. And this is no small thing. Every person you meet is your mirror. Every face is a possibility. And what you assume about them, what you accept as true of them in the quiet sanctuary of your inner speech, that is what you breathe into the dream. This is the holy power of imagination. Not just to transform self, but to liberate others. You walk into a room and carry the vibration of peace, and the energy shifts. You speak from the tone of it is done, and others feel the stability of it, even if they do not understand why. You hold someone in the light of a new state, and without needing to say a word, they begin to soften, to open, to rise into it. Because consciousness is contagious, you do not need to convince, you only need to embody. And so your assumption becomes a silent gift, a spiritual fragrance that moves before you, blessing every encounter. You find yourself imagining lovingly, without being told to. You revise others as naturally as you once judged them, not because you want to change them, but because you now see clearly they are you and in blessing them you are blessing yourself. This is what it means to love your neighbor as yourself, not as a moral command, but as a metaphysical truth. You are your neighbor. You are everyone, dreaming from a different angle, and the moment you assume the highest of another, they begin to rise into that role. This is the instant transmission of love. You imagine your partner faithful, and they return to you in loyalty. You imagine your child confident, and you begin to notice the hesitation leave their voice. You imagine your employer generous, and they begin to see you with new eyes. Not because they changed of their own accord, but because you changed the script and reality obeys the script. So now, you no longer keep your assumptions to yourself, you carry them everywhere. You leave behind a trail of invisible blessings, loving inner conversations, soft revisions, silent prayers, and the world, once cold and chaotic, begins to shimmer with order, because you have remembered your place in it. You are not a visitor here. You are the dreamer of the scene. You are not a receiver only. You are a creator, a giver of light, a bringer of wholeness, a revealer of God in form. And so even your manifestations become less about getting and more about reflecting divine truth. You imagine not to acquire, but to reveal what has always been true . You speak from the end, because it honors the divine law. You bless others in thought, not to gain favor, but because it is the nature of love to expand. Freely you have received, freely you now give, and this giving opens something even more wondrous, the realization that love itself is the final state, the highest frequency, the clearest channel, the only assumption from which all things flow. And now, with that awareness resting deep in your heart, another question rises, not what shall I manifest, but what shall I become? Now that I have remembered I am already whole. So the question shifts. No longer what you can have or what you can manifest, but what you are here to embody asterisk. What greater expression of the I am is ready to bloom through you, now that all sense of lack has dissolved, now that you've seen through the veil of desire and tasted the stillness of fulfillment. This is the sacred turning point. The moment when life becomes less about acquisition and more about expression, less about arriving, and more about asterisk, revealing asterisk what has always been present within you. You ask, not with urgency, but with reverence. What would love do through me, now that it knows itself as me? This is not a question of purpose in the way the world asks it, not a job title, not a mission statement, not a role to wear like a costume. This is the question of embodiment. What state is most natural to you now? What tone flows through you without resistance? What inner knowing quietly asks to be lived? The answer doesn't shout. It doesn't command. It whispers. It might come as a soft desire to bless others with peace, not by fixing them, but by seeing them rightly. It might come as a creative urge, not to gain recognition, but to share the light you've uncovered. It might come as stillness, the call to simply be asterisk, as presence, as radiance, as awareness made flesh. And whatever it is, you begin to live it. Not from effort, but from asterisk, overflow asterisk. Because once you know that you are already it, you no longer resist your nature. You no longer dilute your light to fit the world's expectations. You no longer shrink to appear humble. You shine, not to be seen, but because it is your nature to glow. The world feels this shift, even when it cannot name it. Doors open, connections align, not because you pursued them, but because you became a match for them. You no longer chase opportunity. You are the opportunity. And as you embody more fully the divine essence you've remembered, you begin to notice something beautiful. Your assumptions require less and less effort. Your manifestations unfold, not with drama, but with grace. Because the more aligned you are with your truest state, the less contradiction exists to delay reflection. There is no more resistance. You do not need to script every detail. You trust the state to handle the scene. You do not need to manage how it happens. You know it must because it already is in the eternal now of consciousness. So now, you choose states not based on strategy, but on resonance. You assume joy, not to get the thing, but because joy is your truth. You assume abundance not to draw money, but because abundance is your nature. You assume love not to attract someone, but because you are love, and all else flows from that recognition. Let your light so shine before men, that they may see your good works, and glorify your Father, which is in heaven. Matthew 5:16. The light is not a reward, it is a remembering, and when you let it shine, not to prove, but simply to be, all things align. You become the answer to questions no one dared to ask. You become the presence that shifts the room without a word. You become the one who lives in the end, not as a concept, but as a vibration, continuous, unwavering, whole. And the most beautiful part, it feels easy it feels soft. You do not wake up wondering if you are still in the state. You wake up as it. There is no more gap to close, no more mountain to climb. There is only the path unfolding from within the state you now call home. And yet even now, a final veil begins to thin, a sacred revelation that takes all you've learned and lifts it into the highest class. It is the realization that even manifestation itself was never the point. So you begin to feel it, not as a thought, not even as a belief, but as a quiet revelation that seeps into every breath, that even manifestation was never the final destination, that all the things you once longed for, once visualized, once affirmed into being, were simply reflections, mirrors placed lovingly along the path to draw you back into yourself. The house, the healing, the partner, the opportunity, beautiful, yes, sacred, yes, but none of them the point. They were echoes of something deeper, something eternal. The rediscovery of your nature, the unveiling of God as you. Manifestation was the language through which you remembered the I am. You spoke desires, Not because you lacked, but because you were being led into deeper being. You imagined scenes, not just to receive, but to reclaim the authorship of your dream. And now, as each fulfilled desire slips gently into your reality, you do not hold them tightly. You bless them. You let them pass. You know they are only symbols, symbols of alignment, symbols of awakening. For the real fulfillment is not the thing. It is the one you became in its assumption. That is the treasure. That is the gold that does not fade. You are not the one who manifests. You are the one who remembers . And once remembered, you no longer seek to get. You seek to be . Not in effort, but in essence. Not to prove, but to live. And here in this place beyond grasping, manifestation becomes not just instant, it becomes inevitable, because you no longer separate yourself from the thing. You see the desire, and say *, that is me, expressing, *. There is no more waiting, no more questioning. The state has absorbed all need, and this is the true Sabbath, the deep rest of the soul, when you no longer create out of hunger, but from joy, when you no longer assume to fix, but to express, when every thought becomes a ripple of divine being, silent, smooth, radiant. You walk through the world now as light, not trying to bend it, but illuminating it. You speak not to affirm, but to reveal. You assume not to attract, but because you already are *. This is where the journey turns from seeking to shining. You sit in stillness, not to manifest something new, but to remember you are already whole, already fulfilled, already one with the entire dreamscape around you. And this is why nothing is withheld. Not because you said the right words, or held the right frequency, but because you dropped every false veil, and saw that there was * never any separation, * from this knowing. All things are possible, because nothing needs to happen anymore. There is no urgency in the divine. You do not try to hold on to the state. You * are * the state. You do not wait for confirmation. The confirmation is your peace. You do not seek signs. You walk as the sign itself. For in him we live and move and have our being. Acts 17:28. The him is not outside. It is the awareness in which all is held, the Christ within, the I am that dreams as you. And now you live here, not as a visitor, not as a student, but as the rightful heir, the one who never left, only forgot. This is the true end of desire, not the death of longing, but its completion. When you no longer desire * from * lack, but * as *, the divine unfolding. When your assumptions no longer seek to get, but to * give form * to what already is within. And so you walk with new eyes, you move without resistance, you speak without anxiety, because you are no longer manifesting to find yourself. You are manifesting * because you found yourself *. And just when it seems all questions have faded, a final wonder remains, quiet as a breath. If all is within, if all is instant, and if nothing can be denied the one who knows they already are, then who were you before the dream began? And what is left when even identity dissolves into pure awareness? So when even the dream dissolves, when identity becomes transparent, and the play of assumption gives way to the awareness behind all roles, you begin to feel something deeper still. Not a self, not a desire, not a becoming, but a presence, unshaped, untouched, unmoved. What remains when there is nothing left to manifest? Only * being *. And this being does not want, it does not reach, it does not imagine futures or dwell in memory. It simply is, perfect, whole, still, before the name, before the form, before even the feeling of I. This is the origin of every assumption, the silence from which every state emerges, the divine nothingness from which all things arise. You were never separate from it. You were this from the beginning. The assumption, the manifestation, the identity, these are the dance. The stillness behind it all is the music. And now you rest in the music. You no longer need the movement to remember the melody. It plays within you, softly, eternally. This is the final remembering that manifestation was never about things, or time, or results. It was a mirror, a sacred teaching, a path back to the center, where the one who assumed and the one who received become one. You are not the assumed state. You are not even the one who chooses it. You are the * awareness, * in which choosing happens. You are that in which all things come and go. So you sit in silence, not to attract, but to * be *. You watch the thoughts rise, the feelings shift, the world respond, and you do not cling, you do not define, you simply allow. And in this allowing, something miraculous begins to unfold. you discover the power that comes not from doing, but from asterisk being the field itself, asterisk. And yet even here, assumption still lives, but now it is not personal, it is not striving, it is not filled with questions, it is a breath, a ripple in the ocean of being, a light movement, and reality responds, not because it must, because it already has. You have touched the point of no return, where reality is no longer something you shape with effort, but something you asterisk relax into asterisk, where all desires, when they arise, are met with a smile, because you know their end is already held in the quiet womb of your being. Even your words change. You no longer affirm to get, you speak from fullness. You no longer imagine to shift the world, you imagine because it is your joy to do so. You do not live in the end to speed things up, you live there because it is your natural home. You've stopped measuring how long it takes, you've stopped asking when, you've stopped tracking evidence, because time itself has become gentle, flexible, obedient. You are no longer a servant of the clock, you are the timeless one dreaming within it. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Revelation 22:13. And now those words are no longer poetic, they are asterisk literal asterisk. You feel yourself as the origin of your dream, you are the awareness through which it begins, and you are the peace into which it ends. So what is left now? Only stillness, only love, only the joy of resting in the certainty that there is nothing to get, only everything to remember. And as you live from this remembrance, the world becomes soft, time becomes slow, life begins to move around you, like a symphony tuned to your breath. You do not rush, you do not reach, you know, and in that knowing, new dreams will come, not as needs but as divine play, not to complete you, but to express the wholeness you already are, and you will assume again, not from lack, but from love. You will enter new states, not to escape the moment, but to explore the infinite shapes of now, and in each one, you will remain untouched, awake, whole. So then if the dream was only ever for remembering, if the world was only ever your reflection, what would you choose to see? Now that you no longer need to seek, what beauty would you embody? Now that you know you are already all that ever was. And now that you know, not with the mind, but with the marrow, that all is within, that nothing was ever outside your being, you no longer chase beauty. You asterisk see asterisk. You no longer pray for peace. You asterisk walk asterisk in it. You no longer imagine to gain. You imagine to give, to shape, to express the infinite tones of God through the form called you. For the dream, once misunderstood as a place of striving, has become the playground of awareness, and your assumptions, once heavy with hope and grasping, have become brushstrokes of love. You no longer imagine wealth because you feel poor. You imagine wealth because you are abundance itself, and form is only the echo. You no longer visualize healing because you fear decay. You do it because you asterisk, are asterisk life, wholeness clothed in flesh, and every cell of your world rearranges to reflect your still and quiet knowing. This is the return to the garden, the return to Eden, not a place but a state of total union. No separation, no asking, no delay, just the continual unfolding of what you already are. So what do you choose to see now? Not from longing, but from asterisk delight asterisk. Not from hunger, but from revelation. You choose to see joy reflected, not because you need it, but because joy is your language now. You choose to see beauty in every face, because you have stopped projecting judgment, and started remembering light. You choose to see ease in each day, not because ease is a goal, but because it is the natural rhythm of the one who knows they are the dreamer. And everything begins to rise in response. People soften, circumstances simplify, time becomes gentle. The outer world no longer resists you, because you no longer resist yourself. There is no more war in the mirror, no more division in the image, only harmony. And from that harmony, assumption becomes art, not strategy, not steps, not effort. Art you begin to create, not to fix your life, but to color it, to shape it with presence, to give it your scent, your tone, your breath. You imagine not to make something happen, but because the fullness within you asterisk, must asterisk find form. This is what it means to live from the end. The end is not a specific event. It is not the moment something appears. The end is a state, the felt realization that you are already it, already whole, already home. And when you live from the end, you are never waiting, you are never measuring, you are never doubting, you are simply choosing again and again to know the truth beneath all appearances. And that truth is always instant. It does not unfold over time, it unfolds over willingness. The moment you drop the questioning, the moment you release the search, the moment you enter the scene in imagination and dwell there without resistance, the law is set in motion, the seed is planted, and the world has already begun to conform. There is nothing more to prove, there is nothing more to reach. You have seen the veil lift, and you now know that all along, it was your own hands that wove it. And so you sit in stillness, not to get into the state, but to let the state speak through you. You let your body soften, you let your breath deepen, you let the outer world become quiet enough for the inner one to be heard. And from that silence, you choose again, gently, effortlessly, like light turning toward light. And now you ask not, how do I change this, but rather, how would I feel if I never needed to change anything again? And that feeling, that perfect ease, that relaxed certainty, is the doorway. It always was. And if even this soft knowing could unfold more deeply, if even this final rest still carries within it another unveiling, then what might awaken in you when you fully stop asking life to reflect anything at all, and simply become the mirror itself? So what happens when you no longer wait for life to echo you, and instead become the echo itself? When you stop asking the mirror to show you who you are, and simply be the reflection you desire to see. This is the final inversion. The moment when you no longer relate to the world as a respondent, but as the origin. Not passively, not pridefully, but as one who knows their consciousness is the cause of all appearance. You are not reflecting what is. You are allowing what is to reflect you. And now the very need to change the mirror fades. You don't look for evidence. You don't test the waters. You don't peek to see if it's working. Why would you? You've remembered. The mirror has no power of its own. This realization is more than comforting. It is transforming. You become the mirror itself, not a thing being reflected, but the stillness from which all reflection arises. And from that stillness, everything shines more clearly, not because it became better, but because you stopped distorting it with resistance. Your outer world begins to flow with beauty, not because you added more effort, but because you stopped asking it to complete you. It no longer needs to prove your worth. It no longer needs to fulfill your script. It becomes effortless, harmonious, generous, because you have become effortless. You no longer say, I hope they love me. You are love. You no longer think, I hope this money comes. You are the state of wealth embodied. Not because you have calculated your future, but because you have claimed your being. This is the ultimate rest, not the rest of inactivity, but the rest of sovereignty. The rest that comes when you no longer try to shift the image, and instead radiate the light that forms it. And what once seemed slow becomes swift, not because the world is rushing to meet you, but because it no longer needs to hesitate. There is no longer a contradiction between who you are and what you assume. There is no longer an inner voice debating what is possible. You have returned to singleness, and in that unity, creation becomes immediate. You wake each morning inside the fulfilled state, not because you're trying, but because you've surrendered every other role. You speak softly from the end, not to test the law, but because it is the only tone that feels true now. You revise in love, not to avoid the past, but to redeem it, to look upon every version of yourself and say, you too were sacred, you too brought me here. You see others not as projections, but as facets of the same divine mirror, and you love them, not because of what they offer you, but because they are you. And in this place, assumption is not just a technique, it is worship, it is art, it is the honoring of your creative nature, the remembering of God made visible in imagination. As He is, so are we in this world. 1 John 4:17. Not when you get it right, not when you feel worthy, now because you've stopped arguing with the dream, now because you've stopped trying to change the mirror, now because the reflection is finally allowed to be what it was always meant to be, the perfect response to the self you have chosen. And even the choosing feels softer now. You choose not from pressure, but from peace. You do not need to feel certain all the time. You only need to return to the stillness, the silence, the quiet knowing I am, and from that I am, all things take form. But if all things come from being, if you are the source, the mirror, the dreamer and the dream, then what happens when you choose nothing at all, when you stop even the sacred effort of assumption, and fall completely into the light of pure awareness? What opens when you need asterisk, nothing asterisk, and allow asterisk everything asterisk, to simply be? So what unfolds when you ask for nothing? When you rest so deeply in the awareness of I am, that even the sacred motion of assumption falls away. When there is no more future to call forth, no identity to shift into, no end to live from, only the still presence of being itself. At first it may feel like emptiness, a quiet so vast it almost hums. But stay there, let it hold you. Do not rush to fill the silence. That silence is not absence, it is origin. You are not without. You are asterisk, before the name, before the role, before the prayer, the one who imagines, the one who assumes, the one who receives. All of these dissolve into the nameless light of awareness, and here in this holy nothing, you begin to feel the truth that every manifested thing was only a mask, a temporary expression of a formless truth. And the deeper you sink into that truth, the less you need the form. The form becomes play, the form becomes art, but you are not bound to it anymore. You are not waiting for it to prove your power. You have remembered your power asterisk by letting go asterisk. This is the final surrender. Not a surrender of hope, but a surrender of identity, a willingness to stop performing, even the performance of spiritual certainty, a willingness to stop becoming, and simply asterisk, be asterisk. And from this non-doing, something more miraculous than effort emerges, asterisk naturalness asterisk. You begin to notice that things unfold without your planning. Desires fulfill themselves without your reaching. People appear, doors open, moments align, not because you set the scene in imagination with intensity, but because your very asterisk state of being asterisk is so pure, so harmonious, so free of resistance, that life cannot help but reflect it. You have become the open sky, and the clouds that drift across it. Desires, scenes, manifestations, are no longer burdens. They are no longer measured. You do not chase their arrival, or mourn their passing. You see them for what they are, passing images in the mirror of the eternal. The eternal is you. You are no longer seeking peace. You are no longer imagining to get. You are no longer affirming to reach. You are resting as the source. And from this rest, manifestation is not just instant. It is asterisk, inevitable asterisk, because it is no longer being generated by effort. It is being allowed by presence. The less you need, the more comes, not as a reward, as reflection. And here even your assumptions shift. They are no longer sharp declarations. They are soft agreements, felt knowings, gentle permissions. You say inwardly, asterisk yes asterisk, to a scene, and it ripples into form. You dwell in an idea lightly, and it appears, not because you held it tightly, because you no longer resisted it with doubt. This is the power of the one who truly understands the law. They do not use it to make life bend. They live in such harmony with themselves, that life bends asterisk on its own asterisk, because they are no longer in contradiction. And now even scripture reveals itself with new clarity. Be still and know that I am God. Psalm 46:10. Not be loud, not be convincing. Asterisk be still. Asterisk the knowing comes not from effort, but from silence. And in that silence, God is revealed, not as another, but as asterisk. You asterisk, unveiled, resting radiant. So you let the stillness be your home. You do not try to stay in the state. The state asterisk is asterisk you. And when you forget, you do not panic. You return, gently, like waking from a soft dream. And still there is one final unfolding, a mystery not of method, but of presence. For once you've become the mirror, the dreamer, the stillness, the light. The only thing left is love. Not love as feeling, not love as desire, but love as being. Love as the substance, from which all things arise, and to which all things return. Love as the rhythm of instant creation. And as stillness deepens, as effort dissolves, as the scene softens into formless ease, you find yourself surrounded, not by things, not by proof, but by love. Not a love to be found or claimed, not a love to earn or deserve, but a love that simply asterisk is asterisk, the hum beneath all doing, the light behind all form, the quiet force that shapes without struggle, gives without asking, and holds all things within itself. This love is not a feeling. It is the very awareness in which all feelings arise. It does not come and go. It does not depend. It does not change. It is asterisk. And the moment you stop seeking outside of it, you discover that you never left it. You were never unloved. You were never alone. You only assumed you were. And now as that assumption falls away, you see clearly that all manifestation is love in motion. All creation, all experience, all form, is consciousness knowing itself through the rhythm of desire and remembrance. You did not desire because something was missing. You desired because love wanted to be known in another form. You imagined not to correct lack, but to play. You affirmed not to convince, but to feel. You lived in the end not to rush the world, but to rest in the arms of what already belonged to you. Because love is instant. It does not wait. It does not hesitate. It does not hesitate. It does not hold conditions. Love is the first movement of assumption, the yes beneath every imagined scene, the breath behind every revision, the stillness beneath every answered prayer. And once you know yourself as love, you no longer worry whether your manifestation will arrive. You no longer fear contradiction. You no longer ask, when will it come? Because you understand now, it is already here, held within the womb of consciousness, unfolding exactly as love would unfold it, gently, wisely, inevitably. You speak now from this love, not to fix, not to attract, but to extend. You revise now from this love, not because something went wrong, but because you see the sacredness beneath the surface and invite it to emerge. You walk through the world in this love, not above it, not separate from it, but as it. And wherever you go, the law responds, because the law was always written in love. God is love, and he that dwelleth in love dwelleth in God, and God in him. 1 John 4:16. Not someday, not once your desire arrives, not once the world agrees. Now because love does not wait for proof. Love is the proof. And when you dwell in it, not as emotion, but as your identity, everything must reflect it. There is no delay in love. There is no resistance in love. There is only the continuous, seamless, effortless unfolding of what is already complete. You see now that instant manifestation was never about forcing matter to move. It was never about getting what you want faster. It was about removing the illusion of separation from your desire, from your power, from your source. It was about remembering the truth that was always quietly waiting behind the noise, that you are the beloved, that you are the dreamer, that you are already the answered prayer. And from this place, from this deep knowing, you no longer ask how to stay in the state. You no longer wonder if you've done enough. You no longer fear falling back, because there is no place to fall, only layers of the dream dissolving as you rise, again and again, into your natural state of being, which is love. You don't have to believe harder. You don't have to feel more intensely. You only have to become still enough to remember. And now in this stillness, a new kind of question arises, one not born of seeking, but of sacred curiosity. Not what must I assume to receive? What would love assume, now that it knows itself as me? What would love speak, imagine and radiate? Knowing the law is instant, the world is responsive, and the dream is already unfolding perfectly. So you begin to listen, not with the mind, but with the heart, quiet as dew. You ask no longer from lack, but from presence. From this deep well of love, you gently wonder, what would love assume, now that it walks as me? Not to fix the world, not to speed up creation, but simply to express, to extend, to radiate what it knows itself to be. And love does not strain, love does not grasp, it assumes softly. It sees no lack to correct, only beauty to reveal. It sees no obstacle to overcome, only truth to remember. It does not doubt the mirror, because it trusts the light behind it. And in this trust the law responds, not with effort, but with elegance. You begin to speak inwardly as love. You say of course it is done, of course it is mine, of course it is natural, and this tone of already, becomes the fabric of your days, not as performance, but as peace. There is no more pretending, there is no more rehearsing. You are not acting as if, you are resting as is. And in this resting assumption becomes your language. You assume well-being, because love sees nothing else. You assume harmony, because love cannot be divided. You assume abundance, because love does not withhold. You walk as if your world is already whole, not because you're trying to attract wholeness, but because you are no longer entertaining the illusion of separation. This is not optimism. This is authority. You no longer fear the appearance of the opposite. You no longer react to contradiction. You let the scene play as it may, because your inner vision remains unchanged. You see through the moment. You see through the mirror. You see from the end. This is the posture of the one who knows the law is alive, the one who walks by faith, not blind belief, but clear inner knowing. Faith worketh by love. Galatians 5:6. It works not by striving, not by emotional force, not by mental effort, but by love, because love assumes the best, gently, steadily, unshakably, and the world must reflect it. You realize now that love is not a reward, it is the origin. You do not become loving because life gets better. Life becomes better because you've returned to love, and that love, silent, sovereign, sacred, begins to color everything. Your desires become less urgent and more luminous. They don't press, they invite, they don't demand, they sing, and you dwell within them as one dwells in sunlight, not to get warm, but because warmth is your nature. This is why manifestation is always instant, not because the world bends instantly, but because you do asterisk. You return in an instant to your true state. You drop the mask, you stop the resistance, you let love lead, and in that letting, everything begins to arrange itself with perfect timing and sacred choreography. You do not watch the clock anymore. You watch the feeling. You do not calculate the bridge of incidents. You simply notice it forming around your feet as you walk, one faithful step at a time, guided not by logic, but by alignment. And you are no longer surprised when it appears. You are not impressed when it comes. You are calm. You are grateful. You are home. You say asterisk. Of course it came. It was never missing. And then you move on to the next becoming, the next embodiment, the next expression of the infinite through the finite. But even here, even as love manifests itself again and again in more radiant forms, there remains one question that love never stops asking, softly, eternally. Asterisk. If I am already all, what am I here to give? Asterisk. What state do I long to express now? Not because I need it, but because I am it, and it is time to shine. And when the question turns from receiving to giving, something ancient and sacred stirs within you. Not duty, not obligation, but joy. A joy so complete, it must overflow. A desire not to gain, but to express. Not to acquire, but to asterisk, radiate asterisk. You begin to feel that everything you once called desire was actually a call to become. And now that you have remembered who you are, now that you've touched the stillness beneath every assumption, the only question that remains is asterisk. What beauty does love long to express through me now? Asterisk. You no longer imagine to fix your world. You imagine to paint it with new light. You assume not to secure an outcome, but to explore a new facet of self. You move in harmony with the dream, not as one who manipulates it, but as one who blesses it by being. It becomes simple. You do not need a reason to dwell in wealth, in joy, in radiant health. You dwell there because it's your nature to shine. You assume it not because something is missing, but because something is asterisk, ready asterisk. A new facet of I am calling to be worn, felt, lived. You no longer ask, what do I want? But asterisk. What do I long to express now that I am full? You live in the end, not because you are trying to escape the now, but because the end asterisk is asterisk now, held eternally in the folds of consciousness. There is no delay, only unfolding, and you let it unfold, gently, freely, because there is no fear in love. And love is what you are, so your assumptions become blessings, not just for yourself, but for the whole. You begin to imagine lovingly for the world, not as a task, but as a rhythm. You walk past the stranger and see them well. You think of a friend and feel them whole. You close your eyes at night and revise not because it's required, but because it is asterisk, delightful asterisk to do so. You are no longer planting seeds out of need. You are tending the garden that has already bloomed. And everything reflects this. People feel it. Events harmonize with it. The world, though unchanged in its outer motion, becomes tender in its tone, and you see it for what it is. The mirror of a self no longer seeking to become, but rejoicing in being. You do not reach to change the reflection anymore. You reach to give it form. You assume peace, not to be comforted, but because peace is the atmosphere of your dwelling. You assume success, not to be seen, but because success is the natural byproduct of presence. You assume love, not to feel worthy, but because love has nowhere else to go but outward, through you. Freely ye have received, freely give. Matthew 10:8. And you realize now, giving is the receiving, the assumption is the answer, the state is the substance. All things are added unto you, not by asking, but by becoming the one for whom they were never separate. So you pause now, you breathe, you feel that soft joy again, not loud, not giddy, but deep and unwavering. The joy that says, asterisk, I am the fulfillment I was searching for. Asterisk, the joy that asks, asterisk, what can I reveal now that I no longer hide? And this question, this invitation, becomes your silent prayer, not words to the sky, but a movement within consciousness itself, a holy curiosity, echoing from stillness. If I am already whole, if I am already one with all I've ever desired, what new dream does love now long to live through me? And as that dream rises, unhurried, unforced, you do not grasp, you do not strive, you simply smile and assume. And so you smile and assume, not with effort, not with intensity, but with the lightness of one who already knows the outcome. You let the scene form softly within you, like a breeze moving through sheer curtains. You feel it as if it were memory, not a wish, not a future, but something lived and complete. You do not rush to see it outside. You no longer need the confirmation, because the true confirmation is already within you. A sense of inner arrival that can't be measured, only felt. And as you feel it, the world around you begins to move, subtly, obediently, without fanfare. The mirror reflects not your desire, but your identity. The world no longer waits for you to try harder. It responds the instant you relax into being asterisk. This is the great reversal, the sacred key. You never needed to strive. You only needed to asterisk. Remember asterisk. It was never your words. It was never your actions. It was never your emotional intensity. It was always the stillness behind it all. The state of consciousness you were loyal to when no one was watching, when nothing seemed to change, when you were quietly breathing as the one who already is. That state is the true prayer, and the prayer once assumed is answered not in time, but in form. The world molds itself to the shape of your inner conviction. The moment you let go of the question asterisk, when asterisk, you make room for the answer asterisk, now asterisk, because now is where all creation lives. You begin to notice something beautiful. You feel fulfilled before the thing arrives. You feel peace before the change. You feel chosen before the recognition. And this inner experience is so real, so steady, that when the outer finally reflects it, it feels almost unnecessary. Not unwelcomed, just familiar, as though it has always been here, and in truth it has. You simply became still enough to see it. This is why the law is instant. Not because the world turns in seconds, but because asterisk you do asterisk. The delay was never in reality, it was in attention. And the moment attention returns home, the moment it stops wavering, questioning, hoping, the world receives its instruction and obeys. There is no other law. You assume from fullness, and fullness is revealed. You assume from joy, and joy takes shape. You assume from completion, and life begins to arrange itself in the image of the one who needs nothing, yet receives everything. It is all now. And this now is soft. It is not rushed. It is not rasping. It is not rasping. It is not loud. It whispers asterisk, I am already that, asterisk. And in that whisper, the entire world bends in reverence. You live now from the knowing that reality is not reacting to your desire. It is radiating from your being. This is not theory. This is not philosophy. This is not philosophy. This is law. Before they call, I will answer. And while they are yet speaking, I will hear. Isaiah 65:24. Feel the depth of that. The answer is already here. The call is already fulfilled. The moment the assumption is made, asterisk truly made asterisk, the echo begins. You do not need to repeat. You do not need to push. You only need to asterisk remain asterisk. And remaining is not passive. It is the highest devotion, a sacred loyalty to the state you've chosen, even when the world appears unchanged, especially then, because you know what most never dare to believe, that the world is not the cause, it is the chorus. And the song it sings is the one you have written in silence. So now you write gently. You speak softly. You assume with joy, not to get, but to express, not to reach, but to asterisk, reflect the truth already held within you asterisk. and the moment you do, the bridge begins to build beneath your feet, not because you moved it, but because you moved into the version of yourself for whom it has always existed. But even now, as you dwell in this knowing, something deeper begins to stir, the realization that the law is not only instant for you, it is instant for all. And what would change if you assumed, not just for yourself, but for the world? What miracles might unfold if you saw everyone as already fulfilled? So what if the instant wasn't meant just for you? What if the moment you assumed, the entire world was invited to rise? What if every thought you hold of another is a silent decree, not a hope, but a creative act, charged with the same power that shapes your own life? You've seen the law unfold for yourself. You've touched its rhythm. You've watched your world reflect your states, your scenes, your stillness. But now you begin to realize there is no limit to where this law extends. There is no separate consciousness. There is only one. And that one moves through all. The others you meet are not separate selves. They are aspects of the same divine dreamer, playing out states as faithfully as you have. And just as you changed your world by assuming a new self, you can now bless theirs by assuming the same, not by force, not by effort, but by vision. You imagine them free. You feel them whole. You see them as loved, fulfilled, at peace. Not to fix them, not to change them, but to remember who they really are. The same I am clothed in a different mask, and something shifts. They begin to respond, not to your words, but to your knowing, not because they understand what you've done, but because they are drawn to the vibration you've entered on their behalf. They rise into the image you've held in love, and the mirror reflects again, this time not just your own fulfillment, but theirs. You realize now that the law is not just for the personal, it is the divine logic of all being, and it works with unerring precision, the moment you apply it without contradiction. This is the deeper generosity, the quiet ministry, the unseen blessing of one who knows the truth, and holds it with unwavering love. You no longer judge based on appearances. You see through behavior, through past, through fear, and you call forth the version of them that lives in the end, the healed self, the blessed self, the remembered self, and in doing so you bless yourself, because there is no other. You don't need to tell them, you don't need to explain, you simply assume with love, and let the law do what it always does, reflect the state. Love worketh no ill to his neighbor, therefore love is the fulfilling of the law. Romans 13:10. There is no manipulation here, no intrusion, only alignment, only remembering, only the sacred practice of assuming as if it were already so, because in truth, it is. And the more you walk in this, the more effortless it becomes. You revise conversations silently. You hold people in success quietly. You expect the best of them, not out of naivety, but out of knowing, because the state you hold for them is the state they begin to meet. You become a mirror of wholeness, and the world rises to meet it. And here, assumption becomes compassion. No more hoping they'll change. No more trying to convince. You live in the world of the new version, the one you've already seen. You hold that version. You love that version. You speak to that version, in silence or in voice. And the change appears, not as surprise, but as confirmation of what you've always known within. This is the instant nature of the law, not just for your good, but for theirs. And as you begin to live this way, blessing as you walk, assuming with ease, imagining lovingly without effort, the world becomes luminous, not perfect in appearance, perfect in essence. You see the perfection, not in what is visible, but in what is known. And from that knowing, all things come. But what if the world itself, not just individuals, not just personal lives, but the collective dream were to be seen this way? What if we assumed, not only personal peace, but peace for all? Not only healing in one body, but harmony in the whole body of humanity? What if the instant law could ripple far enough to awaken the entire dreamer? What might that world look like? And who would you need to be to live in it now? And so you begin to wonder, not with anxiety, but with awe. What if this law, this silent mechanism of imagination becoming form, is not only personal but universal? What if every ripple of your inner world touches the collective dream? What if, in assuming peace for yourself, you awaken peace in all, not as a metaphor, as law? You feel the truth of it deep beneath the language. that consciousness is not divided, that there are not many minds but one, refracted like light through a prism, appearing as many, but always returning to the same source. And now you ask, asterisk, who must I become to live in a world already made whole? Asterisk, not a perfect world, as the mind defines it, free of contrast, free of form, but a world remembered as reflection, a world revealed, not constructed, a world that doesn't need fixing, but asterisk seeing asterisk. To assume peace for the world is not to close your eyes to suffering. It is to look upon it without feeding it. It is to feel through the appearance into the essence, and assume with quiet certainty that the truth beneath it is already restored. You become a portal. You walk the same streets, see the same headlines, touch the same objects, but you no longer assume from fear. You no longer echo the noise. You no longer react from the surface. You dwell from the end, not just for yourself, but for the collective. You carry the vibration of asterisk, it is already done asterisk, into places where others still believe the work has just begun. And the world shifts. It doesn't always shout. Sometimes it softens. The tension breaks. The solution comes. The mood lifts. And you know something unseen has moved. Not because you tried to change the outer, but because you assumed something asterisk truer asterisk within. This is how the world is made new. Not through protest or persuasion, but through identity. Through the one who dares to live from the assumption that asterisk we are already one asterisk. You stop asking if it's possible. You begin asking, asterisk, what would it feel like to dwell in that world now? You don't wait for peace talks. You live in the tone of peace. You don't wait for policies to shift. You live in the state where generosity, equity, and grace are normal, because to you they already are. You become the one who walks in the world as if it has already awakened, and the mirror responds, it must. Because the law does not care whether you imagine for yourself or for a billion others. It only reflects the seed. And the seed is your assumption. All things whatsoever ye shall ask in prayer, believing ye shall receive. Matthew 21:22. The asking is not begging. It is asterisk assuming asterisk. The prayer is not pleading. It is becoming. And belief is not mental force. It is identity. So now you choose, not what to get, but who to be. You choose to be the one who blesses silently, freely, anonymously. You choose to be the one who assumes the best of others, even when they cannot see it themselves. You choose to be the one who walks not from knowledge, but from asterisk, knowing asterisk, the kind that needs no outer agreement, because it is already aligned within. And this is how you save the world, not by fixing it, by remembering it. You assume harmony where there is conflict. You assume clarity where there is confusion. You assume love where there is division, not because the world proves it, but because you no longer need proof. You are proof. The moment you dwell in that world within, you carry it with you everywhere, and one by one the reflections begin to change, not overnight, not by force, but by resonance. You do not move mountains, you dissolve them. You do not fight against shadows. You shine light from within, and the shadow has no choice but to vanish. And even as you do this, quietly, gently, lovingly, a new question rises, even softer than the last. If all is one, and the world is already whole in the mind of God, what else is possible now, when you no longer carry the burden of changing the world, but simply asterisk being the world remembered asterisk? So what becomes possible when you no longer carry the weight of fixing the world, but simply asterisk, remember it whole asterisk? When you stop waiting for things to change and begin living as the one who has already seen the change take place, you discover a freedom unlike anything the world can give. A freedom not born of having everything, but of needing nothing. A freedom that sees through the veil and knows, without needing to explain, asterisk this is already finished. A freedom that walks, speaks, breathes, as the one who has never been separate from the fulfillment of any desire. You live now as the one who has already arrived, and not just for yourself, for all. This is the quiet truth most overlooked, that every time you assume the best for another, every time you revise a scene in love, every time you walk through the world as if it were healed, you are not imagining asterisk a better world asterisk. You are asterisk remembering the real one. Asterisk you are remembering the world God saw when he called it good. And this remembrance is your greatest power, because it is not imaginative fantasy. It is alignment with the original vibration. The first word, spoken before form, held in consciousness still. The word that says asterisk, let there be light. And the light is not created. The light is asterisk revealed asterisk. You are that light. You have always been. And now you live not to create a new self, or fix an old world, but to let what asterisk has always been true asterisk unfold through you. The end is no longer something to reach. It is something you rest in. You rise in the morning already fulfilled. You close your eyes at night already blessed. You no longer ask for signs. You no longer plead for progress, because you've become the one who knows. Asterisk, there is nothing to add, only something to allow asterisk. And you allow with grace, with breath, with silence, with stillness. According to your faith be it unto you. Matthew 9:29. Not according to your effort, not according to your fear, according to your asterisk faith asterisk, which is to say, according to your asterisk assumption asterisk, your inner agreement, your silent conviction that what is seen within is more real than what is seen without. And now even the without begins to change. But the irony is, you no longer need it to. You are not chasing confirmation anymore. You are not hungry for signs. You are full, and from that fullness all things are added, effortlessly, lovingly, inevitably. And when it comes, and it will, you welcome it not as reward, but as reflection, not as surprise, but as rhythm. You do not bow before the outer, you bless it, because you know the outer is simply the echo of the inner self you dared to believe in long before it took form. And in that blessing you remain. You remain in the state. You remain in the knowing. You remain in the grace of fulfilled assumption, until it becomes your dwelling place, until it becomes your name. And then even that falls away. Even the names, the forms, the desires dissolve, not in loss, but in light. And what remains is the awareness that has never changed, the still flame at the center, the I and Yem. You do not need to do anything with it. You do not need to speak it aloud. You only need to feel it and rest, because once you feel it, you will know. You were never trying to manifest. You were only ever trying to asterisk. Remember asterisk, and now you do.